Bye.
Every time. I'm not that name. It's because this is
Hello.
this one is a premium account.
Zoom
Um,
Premium.
yeah, this one's a premium account, but it's
I
not
can feel the
not.
quality just oozing out of it.
This is it. Yeah,
Yeah.
this is a different work one. I'm gonna
So
change my.
it's weird because well I was gonna tonight I'd sat hovering over the premium button with Zoom and I was like, I'm doing quite a lot of these interviews just now and I was like, it would actually be so worth it just me doing it. But then people went, oh, just don't use Zoom, man. Go and use these other things instead. And I was like, but I've tried other ones, and it's just
If I'm honest, it's also the convenience of everyone else, isn't it?
yeah,
Like everyone else being in a situation where they're like, can you make? I've got to make an account, mate. We'll do it next week. Oh, we'll do it next. Is that? Oh, this is just. Do you want to just log on to Zoom? Oh, I'm in.
yeah.
I've got it. I've already got it installed because
Well,
it's
that's it.
convenient.
And it's like when I first started doing the podcast, I was using a thing called what was it, Podcastle, because I was recommended to use Podcastle to start with, and I used it, and it was just so like it's such a long, drawn out affair. I was just like, I'm just like I've got really good like doors that I'm working with. I'm just gonna use that and just do it the way I originally thought. But I was peer pressured into using this other stuff, and it's just like, but yeah, I'm
Yeah.
gonna have to
So
stop being cheap. I'm gonna just get Zoom Premium. I think. I think you are the seeing the quality oozing from your screen now. I'm like, yeah, I'm gonna go for Zoom
is it?
Premium.
Is there an upgrade in quality?
Nah, it's exactly the same.
Oh, that's what. Yeah, to be honest, I'm using a 10-year-old camera. Like, as in, it's
Yeah,
not. Yeah. Yeah, I initially bought this camera for like some online teaching back in like it would have been like 2011 before it was cool. Like I once had a
yeah,
message from someone in America saying like, "Do you do lessons like locally or do you go further afield?" And I thought, UK to America, I don't know if you are understanding where further afield is really. But yes, then we did some lessons online. And it was great, but I've just never upgraded the camera because I never
it's
needed to.
absolutely fine. Like I've got what's mine? It's called a Jellycomb or something. Mine,
Oh,
um,
go on, say it again slowly.
Jellycomb. I could go super ASMR for you and go Jellycomb.
Oh, yeah. Do you
Nice.
know what? I've got a little light that just bounces off the wall and then hits me, and then actually, it's just. Do you know what? That gives it enough light to not go really super horrible and grainy.
Yeah,
Like,
it's yeah. Do you know it's so expensive doing any of this stuff, man? It's just it's really hard to. And I've just realised this will be boring as shit for anyone else to listen to. So I'll
oh,
steer
you get
the
the joys cutting it
I'll,
up, mate. Yeah.
yeah I'll steer the conversation back to what I was gonna just say, like sort of leading on for the conversation before we disconnected, was you know how you were talking about the second listen of
Mm.
Paolo Nutini. So what kind of I wouldn't say worries me, but what kind of I can't think of any other way to say it, so I'm just going to repeat myself. What
Yeah.
worries
What kind
me
of worries? Yeah.
is do you think like as particularly younger listeners, because they're so used to like disposable music, like on Spotify or streaming platforms, they're so used to like giving something 10 seconds and be like, nah, no, no, and just moving on.
Yeah.
They won't discover a lot of the stuff that like that Nutini album for you. If you're listening to it quite
Yeah.
a lot, like imagine if you'd grown up like on the with the sort of the streaming, would you have stuck around and listened to it?
I think if I'm honest, albums for young people are a thing of the past. I think in general, like the amount of kids that I talk to that I'm like, oh, do you know like this album? And they're like, I know this song, and this song because I've added it to my playlist.
Yeah,
And that's the deal. Like, is people are still creating albums, rightfully so, but actually, I think the younger generation albums are just not. They're not something. And I'd love to say it's only young people that don't give something a second listen on streaming platforms, but I think I am also guilty of that. And not intentionally, but I think something that I do in general is because when you've got stuff like Spotify, Spotify is both an amazing thing from a listener point of view,
Yeah.
and also a curse, because actually this new album that I've just been shown, great, love it. All right, ask me in a week that album, and I would have forgotten I listened to it. I would have forgotten what it was called, who it was by, and I'll be in a situation where it's like, oh yeah, I forgot about that album. And there's
Yeah.
so many times that I listen to stuff and I'm like, oh yeah, do you know what? I'm gonna whack this back on. But I haven't created a system enough for myself to be like, oh, this is how I'm gonna re go through those albums. It would be absolutely fantastic to imagine something exists somewhere, but to be in a situation it could be like, oh, do you know what? Actually, this is one of the albums I've listened to before. One of the things that always, generally, like, and I don't know if you get it either, I listen to songs sometimes through Spotify for work purposes, in terms of like, students played a song and I need to reference it, or like, oh, can we learn this song? And I've played it, I've learnt it. Here you go, this is the song. But then Spotify adds that into my like, oh, you listened to this song 3 or 4
Yeah.
times. You like that one, didn't you? Go on then. Yeah,
Nice little
things
bit
like
of
that.
algorithm for you.
Yeah, that's it. My Spotify thinks I love Mumbo 5.
Yeah.
Always on there. Any playlist I ever have created, yeah, that track you like. No, I don't. I'm not a big fan of that.
Have a little bit of Scatman as well.
Yeah, I think you are. I think you've told us you are. No, I genuinely don't like it. Like, is it why I don't mind it? It's not like an awful track, but it's not a track that I'd be like, oh, do you know what? I'm driving to work. Bit Mumbo 5.
But it's my daughter's the same. So like, my daughter's 5, and I've tried really hard not to expose her to rubbish music, and with no influence from me, because I promise, because not because I'm embarrassed by it.
Here's a confession.
It's definitely not a confession, but I when she was younger, right? So what I started doing is I started trying to collect the albums that mean the most to me on vinyl, so that I could sit down and stick a vinyl on and properly listen to the album again. Because I was the same, like, and I'm still bad at it now on Spotify, just like in the car, next, until I find something. And I started really, that's when I kind of fell out of love with like enjoying a band's album. So I was like, right, I'm going to just get them all on vinyl. I'm going to start my collection again. And for, I'd say probably about close to a year, I completely boycotted Spotify, and I put my CDs back in the car and I listened to a full album because I wasn't enjoying the process. But yeah, my daughter, for some reason, her thing just now, there's a song by, don't even know who it's by. It's just called "Where Did You Go?" This horrible dance. I honestly couldn't tell you who it's by. Where did you go? Honestly, it's.
That's to be honest, mate, it's got over my head.
But I made her a playlist, and it's the same crack. So like, it says, "Oh, so you like the cartoons? Have a bit of Witch Doctor, do you?" And you go, "Not really."
Yeah, but in terms of like, because for me, actually putting an album like, so my commute to work is enough that I definitely should cycle. But I also really like to sleep, and we sometimes have to move between sites. That's my excuse. I'm sticking with it. Like, so for me, actually, I do the little Spotify daily. But this isn't an advert for Spotify at all. I'd like to clarify. Like,
yeah, you are.
But like, as in, I do the little daily drive thing where it tells you, it gives you a bit of news in the morning, which from like the Telegraph or wherever it is, and then it gives you a couple of tracks, and it gives you a couple of podcasts that I skip through because it hasn't got the Insecure Musician as the second podcast, and I don't understand why, or even just a snippet of it. That'd be lovely. But
have to get that sorted. Spotify, come on, fucking hell.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, you have a chat, mate. You have a chat.
Yeah.
But like that, for me, I'll go on. I listen to a couple of songs, and that's enough for my route to work. Is in it wouldn't. I'd maybe get 3 songs into an album, if that. Well, probably not even that. I'll be honest. I'll probably get about 2 songs. It's normally enough. I go the long way because then I can get past the beach. So I do the news and then a song, maybe the beginning of a second song. So I quite like it for that convenience of actually knowing what's happening in the world. Lovely, not so lovely. And then being in a situation where it's like, actually, it normally gives me a good song. It normally gives me something like well, recently it has been a lot of Frank Turner. But actually, then sometimes I'll be in that situation. I'm like, skip. Oh, this podcast. Yeah, skip through that. Sweet. No, still not this one. Skip. Oh, number 5, lovely. Skip. And then and actually, I've gone through like 9 or 10 songs. I'm like, oh yeah, sweet. I'm at work now. So this is great. I've listened to maybe 20, enough that you would get a hurdle for throughout. And I'm like, this is class. I've actually not listened to any music at all. Like,
so something that I struggle with, right? And you'll be the perfect person to ask about this because we're pretty much in the same job. So do you do like function band stuff, or do you just do originals with your current band?
In terms of like enrichment sort of stuff.
No, I mean like in your own personal.
Oh, me? Yeah, I do. So I've got so me personally, I'm in an originals band, which is an absolute hoot, and then I'm in 2 different function bands, and then do some various other bits on the side, which is cool. Yeah.
So, because I mean, I'm very similar in terms of. So I teach. Sort of 90% of my time is taken up with music teaching. So I teach at a like a secondary school, although it's not. It's a high school. After we talked about it before, I'm not going back into school stuff, so that can stay. But because I'm doing that all day, and then at the night times, I would either be rehearsing with like a function band, or I'd be writing something, and then I sometimes get in these funks where like the last thing I want to do is go home and listen to music or play music. I mean, is that just me, or do you get to that where you just like the last thing I want to do is think about or do music?
Do you know what I do? I don't. Not something. It's not something that I've thought about actively. I've never thought like, but actually, I don't. Yeah, after. If I have, because so many of my evenings are taken up doing something musically. It's absolutely fantastic, and I'm very, very fortunate. It's a nightmare for spare time because that doesn't ever exist. But as you know, because we're doing the podcast so late, thanks, mate. But like, yeah. But actually, a lot of stuff I'm very fortunate in bringing, music in that I like, bringing it in amongst, and like even just in the office. Like actually, I bought a radio in because for a music office, it was like, what we're doing, we're sitting here in silence. Beautiful. No, I don't want to do that. I can hear you chewing. That's on. But like, so I generally have music on all the time. But I think there is definitely a difference between like passive listening and active listening. And I think you're fully correct. Yeah, after I've done loads of like musicy stuff, my brain is tired of just trying to not use its like focus, like its visual stimulus and just like it's audible stimulus and being like, actually, do you know what, mate? Have a rest. Like, stop that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just like, I want to have a sit in a room for, like, I feel awful sometimes because if I get home from, if I've been doing the music teaching all day and then I've been out at a band practice or, writing something or whatever I'm doing, there's times where like after I'm done, I'll go through to the sitting room and sit with Audrey and sit with the missus, and she'll talk away to us, and I'm sat and I'm just like,
that's when the classic line, "That's crazy," comes in. Oh, that's crazy.
Yeah. But you're just like, you're so just completely like frazzled from it all, and like I think I have to say, like, I am listening and I am interested, and I like, maybe this is my brain. I was like, but I will respond. It just takes me a long time to process right now, and I feel it's just so draining. I'm just like,
honestly, after I don't know. I think that happens just generally after a day. I think part of that is actually just generally being, as much as you think, I am a musician, I love music, I think that's just generally being a human though. Like, as in, I had a situation today. This evening I was running a music focused youth group. Amazing. We had loads of kids. Like, we had a couple of kids that performed for the first time yesterday. They were straight in the practice room. They were learning Boys Don't Cry. I was very fortunate in that. And actually, that one of the schools that I teach at, I taught the guitar bits. There is the bass bit just follows, as far as I'm aware, just follows that. And actually, one of the lessons my kid didn't turn up, so I sat in one of the drum lessons and learnt the drums. So I was like, this is the perfect song for me to teach you guys because I know a lot of it. And so yeah, so they were playing this song. It's like, this is lush. But actually, like earlier in that youth group, I had one kid sit next to me, and I was trying to get these kids to fill out these evaluations, and we were playing a bit of Uno, and he said, "Oh yeah, it's my birthday today," and I was like, "Oh, happy birthday!" And a couple of minutes must have passed, and he was like, "Oh yeah," and then he mentioned his birthday again. I was like, "When's your birthday?" He was like, "It's today," and I went, "When's your birthday today?" And he was like, "I told you that a second ago." I was like, "Was I?" I replied to that, and he went, "Yeah, you said happy birthday," and I was like, "Oh." Like, at what point of a human do you look like when you're like, "Oh, yeah, well, I mean,
That's
that was just a trigger
complete
response."
autopilot. Yeah.
Oh, that was a trigger response. Yeah, my bad. Yeah, like, actually, I sort of apologized and we moved on. And luckily, he was very good about it. But yeah, I was just like, oh crap.
But I do think if you're doing something taxing, and for me, music's something that always. I was speaking to my cousin Ryan. He plays guitar really well, and I was speaking to him about like why we play things, and he said I play music so I don't punch a hole through the wall because because for him it's like a release of helps
absolutely.
deal with things, and everyone uses it in different ways, but sometimes depending on what I'm doing, it just takes so much out of me, and I
Yeah,
think I've said this to students quite a bit, and actually different people I've said the same thing to, that I think people view me in a particular way because they might see me if I'm out playing with a function band and I'm acting a tit on stage, or I do stuff like this, or I'm in front of a class. Like, to me, I feel like I'm a character, and I'm never really myself when I'm doing that stuff. I find it really hard to be myself because if I stood on stage and thought to myself, "This is me standing on stage, delivering this thing, doing this thing," I
yeah,
think I would shit a brick. And I struggle. I'm super introverted, although it probably doesn't show in a lot of cases. But I mean, I don't know if I said this to Rich on the podcast, but the first time we met at Laban, remember getting together in the group, and my initial go-to response was when we were all together in the big group, is I would be the first one. I would try and be the first person to say something or put my be a voice in the room. So I got it out there straight away, and I was like
yeah.
putting a character out, because it helps me deal with it. But like I'm seeing you nodding along when I'm saying this stuff.
Absolutely, yeah. Do you know what, the whole character thing of like teaching and stuff? I couldn't agree more with. Like, for me, I'm a loud person in general. Although I also love to sit in this space, and I love to sit and work on a spreadsheet or something like. As in, like, I am a loser for stuff like spreadsheet. I love doing stuff that actually I can put on a little bit of quiet music. I can sit here. I can sit on my own. I can do little bits. And I love it. And actually, that's the time that I like to, like, play a little bit of guitar, play a little bit of, like, learn some little bits. This is a space that I really like. When I'm out and about, like, generally, like with friends and stuff, I'm quite loud. I'm just generally a loud person. But actually, that loud person compared to the person I am when I'm like teaching, or when I'm running a youth group, or when I'm teaching a group guitar lesson, or anything like that, is a completely different. When I'm on stage, like, is a completely different person. He is so much more confident than I am. Like, because actually, and I was having this conversation with kids, like, when I'm up on stage, I am a character, and generally, like, you get your classic nerves, but there is nothing. And this is one of the things I actually thought about when you were chatting with Rich, and I was listening to that back, and I was like, actually, do you know what? When you were chatting about when you were stood in front of everyone, playing, and like, normally, if that was to be a pub on a Friday,
Yeah.
I wouldn't have a problem. That just, if anyone didn't listen to Rich's podcast, you should. awful people.
Absolutely.
But this is part of our course. Is we listened, we played in front of the cohort that did the course that was there for the week, as well as some of the big wigs in the Open University and like on our course and stuff like that. But that like if we were just to play a pub in London, I would not have been like, this is terrifying. Like we all did one place each, and actually we just played in front of a load of punters. Would not have been terrified at all.
Yeah.
Actually, I was cacking it the whole time because I was thinking actually we're going to play in front of people. Everyone knows if I make a mistake. It's those. We had a kid yesterday and she was like, I totally messed up the lyrics to like Seven Nations Army. I was like, mate, do you know what? I knew that because I know the lyrics because we cover it.
Mm-hmm.
Other than that, actually, you sang along to something and you made some words up that made it like it wasn't like this is the track. This is our version. And I was like, actually, you can have this big circle of people that are there listening. And honestly, you could say, I just punched a toddler in the face in the lyrics. And they would go, oh, what a lovely song. This is lovely. And then there's this tiny, tiny, almost like nipple-like people sort of size that would go, that was wrong. But
yeah,
you know what? You're up there. Well done. Like, as in like... And
it's one of these most freeing things I've ever heard is someone saying to me, and it sounds awful saying this, but someone said to me once that nobody cares. And I thought like that if you let that comment just wash over you, like nobody cares, you think like, well, that sounds like a bit of a dick thing to say. But I mean, if you sort of analyze that a bit, it's people are so wrapped up in what's going on with them and in their little bubble. They won't, it's very rare they'll notice, like, so the same thing with, if we talk about the Lovibond stuff again, that performance, I was fine for pretty much the whole, going across, doing the rehearsals, doing sound check, and exactly that, if that was in a pub or with my function band, like I always get a bit nervous, so no matter how many times I play it, I always feel a bit nervy before I start. But once you've sort of shook it off and you're into your first song and you relax into it and you're like, oh yeah, it's fine. Like I know this song and dance now. But yeah, I got such bad nerves when I did that, and I was like, this is nuts, because I think largely everyone in the crowd, you think 95 to 99% of the people there were musicians, so they would be listening to stuff. And also, like, you build like relationships with people. So I knew like you and Rich were listening, and like a lot of other people that are still going to be coming on the podcast. And I was like, you don't want to go up there and make a massive knob of yourself.
That's it.
And it's that fear. But nobody at the time will address that. And that's kind of where this whole idea came from. And this was part of my final project. But actually, like I am deeply interested in finding out how people sort of get over that, and because it stopped me doing the things like that voice in my head, not just within music, just in life. It stopped me doing so many things because you think, well, I could do that, but I'm probably going to be shit at it, or someone's going to take the piss. And it's awful.
It's always, and do you know what I think I love about that is I can almost guarantee you. Is always going to be someone. It's not going to be someone close. It's going to be someone that you haven't spoken to in years that might hear it, and you're like, well, what about if they hear it? They might be like, this guy. And it's never like, oh yeah, my wife might hear it and think I'm a dick. It's always like, oh yeah, that guy that I haven't spoken to since here might hear it and think, oh no, and I can't face that. It's like, actually, no one cares. And it is that statement of like, even just in general, like in general life, you'll be like, oh, I remember that meeting when you could be maybe in a choir when they say, oh, alto line, and I blurted out an alto line, possibly, maybe. Don't know who that would be.
Rich.
But like after you could be thinking like, oh, fucking hell, everyone's thinking about that. And actually, if it wasn't for the fact that we took the piss for the rest of the week,
and continue to do months later,
and continue to do, but only in jest, like as in no one else would have gone, oh, remember that time that Richard, like, it's only because we'd formed that friendship and we were like, having that, like, such a small insignificant thing that he did, and we went, oh, hello, gonna
latch onto that.
We're gonna take that one. Like,
Yeah.
but like in general, like there'll be meetings, there'll be loads of things that you've done in life. Like something you walked into like I don't know, you walked into a shop and then did something stupid. And you're thinking, like, actually, the cashier's still thinking of that time that I said, I approached a class the other week and just I was like, "Hello, morning," and I was like, "What?" And they latched onto that whole lesson. But like. Actually, I could be thinking now. I was like, I still remember that time that I was like, actually, you know what? Honestly, they don't care.
It is. I think if you can let it go and just without replaying the thing over and over in your head, it makes it so much better. But yeah, it's that. Yeah, you're exactly right. It's all those little things you replay over and over. Um, and I don't know. There's a question, right? I'm going to try and ask everyone that I get on the podcast
Ooh,
because
go on.
it sprang into my mind as I've been sort of doing a few of these. Um, so one of my first ever gigs that I did growing up, okay, so in high school I was a part of this band called Project 90 because we were so cool and thought of original names.
Yeah.
Um, and it was like a pop punk band, and so from a young age I've been gigging, I've been in bands doing cover songs and writing our own stuff. So it's something I was, it feels very natural to us, but I've always been really self-conscious. Um, sort of I'm standing up on stage, or maybe in like a bigger bloke as well. I always felt like when I was younger, I was about a foot taller than everyone else, and pack on some beef and stuff. You know what I mean? Like I always
Yeah.
feel like I never looked right playing the guitar, and never fit in, and
Always
that's
felt like you should be a bass player.
absolutely. And
Like.
I don't know if you can see, was it there? So this guitar here, right?
Yeah.
It's like an EVH. It's quite a small body thing, and I love playing
Yeah.
it in the house. But there's no way I would take that gig in live anywhere because it looks like a fucking ukulele on me. It's so small,
You know
and
what? I've got an acoustic like that I just every time people come up to me like, is that a 3/4? I'm like, no. It's just a small body. It makes me look like I'm standard size because I'm only
yeah,
5'10". Like, it makes me just look really tall from afar. It's great. Sorry.
yeah. No, man, it's so that whole kind of insecurity that I had because I felt like I never looked the part, and when I looked at bands, I was like, oh, but I don't look like that, and like I don't feel like I kind of fit in. And there was, I was doing like a lot of sort of searching about like why do I care now as an adult? Like, it shouldn't really bother me those sorts of things. And I'd cast my mind right back to one of the first ever gigs that I did, and it was on quite a big stage at a theater, and it was a big sort of like Colosseum esque, where the seating goes
Yeah.
up. And I remember standing on stage, and I was nervous at the time, and someone had like shouted out from the crowd something like "fat wanker" or something really awful but really cutting, like right. And I don't even know if it was particularly aimed at me or if it was just a general comment in the crowd. But I remember getting a complete pang of anxiety and thinking like, "Oh fuck!" Like, there's someone's like picked up that I'm insecure about this thing.
Yeah.
I don't look right. I don't feel right. I remember I hated that gig, but then for some reason it blocked out my memory for a long period of time. Um, but I think things like that, these horrendous kind of the worst things you think in your head, like, oh, I hope no one would say that, and it does. And yeah, it's like an awful thing. So in a very convoluted way, is there anything like your gig in life, your early gig in career, is there things that kind of stick out to you as, like potential sort of stumbling blocks and things that, you've had to.
If gone differently, could have gone down a whole separate route. Whoa, that's a question. That. Um, I'll be honest. I envy people with their memory. My memory is terrible. Like my wife can always remember everything. Like you say, oh, what did you do on the 3rd of June 2003? And she'd be like, oh, we were down on the beach that day having a picnic. And I'm like, she was like, what are you doing? I was like, honestly, no, this is not 4 days ago. I can't remember shit.
Hmm.
Is there anything off the top of my head? Off the top of my head, I can't think of anything. Um, I know there has been points in life as time's gone past that I've thought, actually, do you know what? There is one point in life. I remember one point being sat, and at this point, I was teaching guitar. Like I think I was in college, and I was doing music at college. Like, and I do remember just sitting in my bedroom, just thinking, mate, I'm really shit at guitar. Like genuinely terrible at guitar. Why the hell do I play it? Like I was in what am I playing for? As in like, and I don't know why. And like generally, I'm always quite a positive person. Like as in, if even now, as I was saying to my wife, like generally, I'm very quite fortunate on the fact that I don't have like really poor mental health. But I think that is helped with the fact that people go like, "Hey, it's Sir," and I'm like, "Yeah, I know, I'm incredible. I wish I was me too," and just little phrases like that. But like that was one of the probably the moments of life that I've ever thought like, actually, do you know what? I am so bad at guitar, and I'm like, do you know, I'm going to stop it all. And at that point, I actually was like almost convincing myself that was it. I was never going to play. I woke up the next day and was like, who was that dickhead? Like it was that guy. Like, what's he talking about? Because actually, I realised the reason I teach guitar is because I'm better than people. Like, as in, without sounding really like big and out, like as in, I'm not the best at that point. You know, I wasn't incredible. I wasn't like, hey, look at me. Like, and there's still so many bits on guitar that I know that I can be so much better at. But at that point, I was just, I know, I just must have got myself in such a stumble. I don't know if that's because something had happened that day. I know I remember that point of being like, man, I'm awful and I'm terrible. And I don't know, how am I being able to be like, hey, look, come have lessons with me. When actually, I'm just not very good. And it might have been that actually on my course, there were people that are better than me, or, you know, actually there were some people that I thought, do you know what, you're really good. I'm better at doing this, but you're really good at that, and I want to be good at that. Like, you know, it's those elements that actually, do you know what? There was lots of stuff. I remember leaving college, and I was getting pretty good at like playing like acousticy picky stuff, not quite like classical, but like that just like sort of picking bits and whatnot. And I was getting pretty good at it, but my problem is I placed the plectrum down for a little while, and actually my picking skill now was lower than where it was. And so when I picked it back up, I was like, do you want to learn these couple like bluesy riffs and stuff? I was like, haven't used this in a little while because I've been just playing these other little bits because there was loads of lead guitarists, but no one really wanted playing like anything acoustic. And I was like, I'll do that. That sounds lush. Like I've got a nice acoustic. It's nicer than my electric. Like, yeah, I'll do that. And then so it was just in that situation where actually I was just thinking in my head like, I am okay. I'm good at this. I can do this. Like, but actually, I had got into that point in my head that I was like, nah, terrible. What am I doing? What a pointless time. Just wasting my time. I'm wasting everyone else's time. What else am I going to do? And now I'm here as a music teacher, actually having done that and successfully going through. And as you know, like, you know, being like, actually, you're now validating that I can do this thing. Like, so yeah.
But, do you know, I think it's really important, what you've just said, the actual mental attitude and like the fortitude to overcome things. So basically, particularly when I was younger, because I was self-conscious about sort of how I looked when I was younger. And to be honest, when I have looked back at myself, sort of how I looked, I actually like objective now look back and go, actually, you weren't particularly fat. You weren't particularly, you know, this or whatever. You did look like you were part of a band. It's kind of in here. And to overcome that, what happened to me at school was, rather than sort of retreating into myself and saying like I'm going to be self-conscious about this stuff, I just became a bit of a I would say quite aggressive, like not overly like, I don't know, if someone said the littlest thing to us, it could sometimes set me off. And it'd be like an overreaction with things. And I look back at myself now and I think, because I mean, I don't know if I told you this, but I wasn't the best of students when I was younger, and I'd ended up getting myself suspended for sort of fighting and things at school, and because I had such a short fuse, because I thought I'm not going to let something get to the point where someone can actually upset me to, you know, to make me feel bad.
Okay. Like, we've had this couple of times. Like, that's where I'm going to hit. Like,
yeah. But actually, it is hearing you saying about, you know, because you are someone, I haven't known you for long, but you're incredibly upbeat and positive with everything. You know, and we haven't known each other particularly a long time, but there was situations that could have been potentially really sort of negative when we were away. If people would be like, oh, I'm really, really scared about doing this. And it is your positive mental attitude, PMA. Um, but it's such a big thing, you know, like building the resilience and the fortitude in yourself to think, you know what, like it's absolutely fine. They can do. Someone else might be able to do this, but I'm working on it, and I'll get there. It's just practice, you know.
Yeah,
It's
and this is it. You know, actually, it's just giving yourself that time. It's you know, everyone learns differently. Everyone's completely different. Like, as in, I know that actually, if I do something in a big block, depending on a deadline, going back to that whole deadline thing, like going back to a deadline of like, actually, if I do little things often, I'll do well. I'll learn something. I'll get something new. If I don't want to do it, I know that I need to basically have a deadline, so I work towards that. Otherwise, there is never gonna. It will always be tomorrow.
Yeah.
Oh, it's just tomorrow. I'll do that tomorrow. It's the same reason why I always add my books in January. Like, when it comes to like there's self-assessment. Ever heard of that? Oh yeah. When is it? April. Have you got all the information? Absolutely. I've logged it all. Yeah. So just a quick little form. Yeah. I'll do it next month. Like, I'll do it. What I'll do is I'll do it in the holidays because I've got a bit more time. I'll do it in the October. Christmas is when, you know, a little bit of time. There'll be bits of time that's a bit boring when, like, I'm not with family or something. And I'll just, there's a deadline coming up. I'll get it in. It's in. It's in now, isn't it? Like, it's only the 30th. It's fine. There's still a day.
That's the way to do it, man. It's that you know, the consistency of doing something.
Oh yeah.
I'll send you a week. You might have seen it already, actually, because I know you sort of follow me on the social medias and things. But the second song I've been working on it's very sort of metally, and I've been practicing the vocal screams.
I've seen pictures. I haven't heard anything. And
I'll send you a wee clip after this. But
please
I've been
do.
practicing it for months, and then I finally started doing some of it, and I finally got some of the technique down. Because when you start, it sounds absolutely shit. Like, it sounds awful. And then when you finally get it, and you're just like, oh my God, like, I can do a little bit of it. And honestly, I'm so pleased. And it's just like, I managed to get a verse down with some like metal screaming. And I was just like, Billy Big Bollocks walking around afterwards, like, yeah.
Have you heard what I've done? Love, have you heard this? I don't really like the music, mate. Yeah, but have you heard it?
Yeah.
I didn't care if you like it or not. I just want you to listen and validate me. Thanks.
Yeah.
Like,
That's it. Like, a lot of my pals aren't into the metal stuff as well. So it's like a pointless skill for them. Like, you know, why have you learned how to shout like some sort of strange, some satanic beast? And it's like, because it sounds fucking cool. Like, it's amazing.
That's it.
But yeah, man.
That's it.
I'm noticing our timer's running out.
You know, I was like, oh.
Yeah, I know. It's the talking of deadlines. But so yeah, we'll just, if it's okay with you, we'll just cut there for this evening so we can both get some sleep before work tomorrow.
We will have to do another one because we never ever came back to the hotel key.
Absolutely. Do you know what? I'm like, I could speak to you for so long, and it's the same with Rich.
Continue going.
I tell you what we should do, me, you, and Rich on the next one. Let's get a 3-way going.
Oh, let's do it.
It's okay if it's in a 3-way.
That's it. with a Richie in the middle. There's
a 3-way. Yes, he's got the reference. Nobody will get that reference.
Down for copyright.
Yeah.
But yeah, hotel key. We'll have to come back to it. We'll have to bring it up again. Like
100%. So yeah, man. We'll do very soon. We'll do a 3-way.
Let's do it.
And let's just leave it there.
Yeah.
But it's been an absolute pleasure, and I really do. I'm so appreciative of people giving me time to just speak to me about nonsense. It's great fun, man. And like, honestly, I'm loving it so much, and it gives me an excuse to stay in touch with some really cool people. So thank you so much for your time. It's an absolute pleasure. If you send me some links of any of your projects, bands, or anything, I'll link them all in for you. And
amazing,
you know, happy days.
Yeah, what about that? Cool.
I'll let you go and get some sleep, my brother.
Boring.
Well, and I'll have fun doing my cover lessons tomorrow.
I say enjoy doing your cover tomorrow, mate.
Absolutely. All right, buddy.
Thank you, mate. I'll see you soon.
See you soon. Bye.
Bye.